lot of talk about hate crimes and domestic terrorism recently. Just today, near Chicago, police say someone threw a bottle known as a MacGyver bottle at the College Preparatory School of America. That's a full-time Islamic school in Lombard, Illinois. Cops say the bottle had a non-flammable liquid, and luckily no one was hurt. There have been no arrests, but now police aren't calling this a hate crime or domestic terrorism per se, but it's these types of incidents that stir the debate. Then there's the Temple shooting in Wisconsin. Police say Army vet and white supremacist Wade Michael Page shot and killed 6 people at a Sikh temple last week. Now, this case is the feds are looking into as possible domestic terrorism. Keep in mind, though, they're very careful with that label. They don't throw it around loosely. Some people, though, have their own description for people like Page. Lone wolf terrorists is what they call them. Our next guest wrote a controversial intelligence report for Homeland Security on the threat of right-wing extremism, and the report was later retracted and changed after critics painted the report as an attack on conservative America. Daryl Johnson joins me tonight for our Express interview. He's a former Senior Domestic Terrorism Analyst at the Department of Homeland Security. And Daryl's book, Right-Wing Resurgence, How a Domestic Terror Threat is Being Ignored, comes out in September. Daryl, good to talk to you. And why did you know that the Sikh Temple shooting was by an extremist?
Thank you for having me on your show, Ryan. Basically, right after the September 11th terrorist attacks in 2001, we saw a flurry of violent attacks against Sikhs who were mistaken for Muslims by white supremacists. More recently, we've had about a dozen mosques that have been arsoned throughout the country. So this recent escalation in anti-Muslim sentiment was no surprise when I heard that the Sikh Temple had been attacked.
Okay, and Daryl, I wanted to ask you something. You said something recently that our government is focused on Muslim extremists like Al-Qaeda as opposed to the rising threat of hate groups in the U.S. Why do you say that?
Well, up until this point, it seems like Capitol Hill, our legislators have been concerned primarily with Muslim extremism, radicalization. We've had 5 hearings up on Capitol Hill about this topic, but we've yet to have a single hearing about white supremacist radicalization. And so, you know, I think one of the reasons for that is oftentimes people dismiss these right-wing extremists as being incapable of carrying out a mass casualty-producing event because a lot of the violence is small in scale.
So what do we learn from this shooting in Wisconsin? What should we do now?
Well, certainly we've learned that the Department of Homeland Security should get some more resources to devote to this topic, but also I hope that this shooting would kind of stimulate discussion at Capitol Hill, and perhaps we could have a sit-down with the FBI and our other law enforcement leaders to discuss this very important topic.
You think it will? You think that'll happen because there's so much focus, like you said, on Al-Qaeda and not on groups like this?
I certainly hope so, because if we don't come to grips with this problem, I'm afraid there may be more attacks in the future.
All right, Daryl Johnson, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We'll look out for your book as well.
All right, you're welcome.